Welcome to today's Four Ps podcast. We are in the holiday season, and nothing is more holiday to me than reminiscing about Brazil, Indiana. Yes, it's a town I wasn't there that long, but I had made some great friends, and one of the friends that I have is a person who's going to be sharing with you today. His name is Ron Bridgewater, Pastor Ron Bridgewater. He lives in Columbus now, but we'll be back talking to him here in a minute.
Do you have the next big thing? That world-changing whatchamacallit? Do you have a story to tell? You need a show-stopping web presence. You need the web spinners at Webinit. With big picture solutions spinning together SEO, stellar web design, blogging, podcasts, and social media integrations, you'll find yourself developing your latest and greatest thing, idea, or telling that next chapter in your story. Look us up today at webinit.com, and remember, you're not everywhere unless you're Webinit.
I want to thank you for your continued support on the 4Ps podcast. This podcast is growing every single day. And just recently, I found out that there is an autonomous region in the English Channel named Jersey. And the reason why I found out that there's this region is because there are people listening to the podcast in that area. And I want to thank you so much for your support. If you enjoy the 4Ps podcast and you enjoy stories similar to the ones you hear on the podcast, you will love the book, The 4Ps of You. The 4Ps of You is a collection of stories that deal with those 4Ps, and those Ps are purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. These are a great way to build that foundation and go forward in planning life and finding your meaning and finding your purpose. That is the 4Ps of You. It is available on Amazon. It is available at Barnes & Noble here in the United States. It is also available at Chapters and Indigo Bookstore in Canada. It is available in the UK. It is available all around the world. You can find it. And you know what? I'm going to make sure that it is in Jersey. That is the 4Ps of You. Please get it. Please read it. And thank you for your continued support. Hello and welcome back to a holiday edition of the 4Ps podcast. We are now a couple days away from Christmas, a little bit more than a week, whatever, from Christmas. And it is time where everybody starts, kind of winding down, chilling out, reflecting on the year that was and all that other good stuff. Today, we have a guest that is going to be on our show. His name is Ron Bridgewater. He is a pastor out of Columbus, Indiana. He used to live in Brazil, Indiana. And I've talked about Brazil, Indiana a couple times on this podcast. I did not live there that long. My brother David lived there a heck of a longer than I did. But I did pick up a lot of friends there, a lot of memories there. I'm not much of a holiday person. I'm really not. I'm not much of a Christmas person at all. Our thing about Christmas is, in growing up in Buffalo, we had a skating rink, and usually we would have a skate on Christmas Day around 7 o'clock at night. He had to go there early in order to get the skating rink prepped for Christmas. We'd get up in the morning, and this is as kids. We'd open up our gifts. We may have a Christmas dinner. That Christmas dinner was abbreviated as hell. We would eat, and then after that, we would pack up and go to Skateland. And we would go to Skateland, and we would work and I am not kidding you. There were all night skates, 7 in the night to 7 in the morning. We would skate, and then after that, we'd go back home. So, and especially when I got a little older and I worked at the skating rink, I really did not look forward to Christmas, because I knew I was going to be working for 12 straight hours. And even though I absolutely enjoyed the people that came and all that other stuff, working 12 hours straight, I don't care where you're working, is kind of a pain in the butt. So Christmas, even when I got older, Christmas was not such a great time. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, I never looked forward to Christmas. I guess it was one of those things where, I was conditioned, I guess, to know that Christmas was going to be a day where you had to do stuff, and so I kind of, Christmas was Christmas. But I will say the greatest memories I do have of Christmas was in Brazil, Indiana. My grandmother, my mom's mom on the other side, she was a really big Christmas person. She was a huge Christmas person. Now, today, I will say this right now. If you come to my house right now, there is no Christmas tree. Okay, there is a wreath hanging out on the front door, and that's about as Christmas as I'm going to get. Yes, my grandson has an elf on the shelf, and he is really into Christmas, and he does all this Christmas stuff, and I enjoy watching him do that. And I try hard just to try to be Christmassy, but it's not me. But my grandmother, boy, did she have Christmas. And some of the fondest memories I have of Christmas was in Brazil, Indiana, at my grandmother's house when my parents got separated. And I was there. I was there for about 2 or 3 Christmases. They were great. Everybody and anybody showed up for Christmas. We had a Christmas dinner. We opened our gifts in the morning, and then, everybody hung out. It was a very big time. I mean, it was a great time for family get-togethers, and, those were the days, big time family. And she would have like a huge long table, and everybody would be there, for Christmas. And it was one of the things that we had to do. So a lot of my memories about Christmas come from Brazil, Indiana. Brazil as a town itself is very festive. The downtown street, the main street in Brazil is National Avenue. And National Avenue is decked out. I mean, seriously, it is a, what was that guy? The painter, Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell. It is a Norman Rockwell picture. If you took a picture, stood at one end or the other end of the main drag on National Avenue and took a picture of that main strip, you would think you were in a Norman Rockwell setting. It's still, the town itself is still it's still set up a little bit as an older town. The buildings have been there for quite a long time, and the pictures. I mean, seriously, if a film, if there's somebody in there out here wanting to film a Christmas movie, think about Brazil, Indiana. If you need to do some backdrop and some Christmassy looks of old town USA, because you will definitely get it in Brazil, Indiana. But also the people. And the reason why I bring up the people of Brazil, Indiana, is it's a great community, great people that live in that community, fantastic people live in that community, and one of which is Ron Bridgewater. And Ron Bridgewater, I have known him now for a long time. And he has gone from Brazil, Indiana to Columbus, Indiana. He's a lead pastor of a church in Columbus, Indiana, and he's also a musician. And the reason why I'm sharing this is, number one, I am going to say this, and I'll say this at the end. He has a great Christmas song that we are going to share with you today. But also, this is a person who did what he was supposed to do in order to do what he wants to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back. Sometimes we have to do what we're supposed to do what we want to do. And sometimes we get mad when we have to do it. But Ron was very obedient and did what he was supposed to do. And now we get to talk to him about his sacrifice and his blessing at the end. We'll be right back right after this.
Want a financial detective who translates your money into clear insights and understands your vision? Meet Rose Knows Bookkeeping. Free up your time and get peace of mind with accurate, up-to-date finances. Let Rose handle the numbers while you focus on success. Contact Rose Knows Bookkeeping today.
Welcome back to the program. I talk all the time about my growing up, and obviously, if you read my brother's book, about Brazil, Indiana. Met a lot. I was there an extremely short amount of time of my life. I really was, but I will say the people that I met in Brazil, Indiana, had a lasting impact on my life. They really have. And it's funny that even though as life goes on, our paths seem to run into each other again and again and again. And so, and I'm going pretty long on my introduction, but the individual we have today, obviously, his name is Ron Bridgewater. I did not see him for a million years. And if I say a 30-year time period, I would say a 30-year time period. I had a job, and you guys know I worked at Ivy Tech Community College in Columbus, and I had an event that was going on at that campus, and lo and behold, guy walks in that I haven't seen in 30 years, and it was unbelievable. It was great seeing him. His name is Ron Bridgewater, and the last time we saw each other, we were kids, and now here I am, I'm Dr. Goggins, and you're Pastor Bridgewater, and it's just like, if a teacher would have known that would have been in the future, I'm sure, I know, that would have been impossible to have a doctor and a pastor sitting there talking to each other. Because, what I do remember from high school, that should not have been the case at all. All right.
Exactly.
Pastor Bridgewater, Ron Bridgewater, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
I'm great, Trunus. How are you? Dr. Trunus, how are you?
That's fine. You don't have to worry about that. I will tell you a short story about the doctor thing. I really don't, I don't know why I feel uncomfortable with people calling me doctor. One time my father was actually in hospice, and this is actually a funny story. Okay, so I just want you to know this is a funny story. And so I'm sitting there typing. I'm sitting by my father. My father is in hospice. He's taking a nap, so I figure it's a good time for me to work on my dissertation. So I'm sitting at my laptop typing away, and lo and behold, I look up for a quick second, and my dad's looking right at me. I don't know how long he was looking at me, and I took my laptop and I went to close it, right? He goes, no, your life is still going on. He goes, you need to go ahead and finish whatever you're doing. I said, no, Dad, I want to spend time with you. He goes, son, he goes, I'm very proud of you. And he goes, but one thing I want you to know. And I said, what is that? He goes, I'm never going to call you doctor. Thanks. Thanks. He goes, you're always going to be my son, so I'm never going to ever have to call you doctor. I was like, all right, that's fine. So one day, years later, and they don't know the backstory. I had to explain this backstory to them. Somebody came up to me and said, Dr. Goggins. I said, you don't have to call me Dr. Goggins. Only my dad needs to call me Dr. Goggins. And that lady had the most uncomfortable look on her face ever. So, but yeah, and it was very funny. But that was my story. But Ron, welcome to the program. You have been doing a lot of great things in Columbus, Indiana. You've been doing, you tell us about your church and what you do down there.
Thank you, first of all, Trunus, for having me on, and I just feel honored that you would call and ask me. And I am the lead pastor of East Columbus Christian Church. Been here for 20 years now. In January 3rd will be my 20th anniversary, so not quite 20. I guess if they stick with me for the next few months, I'll get my 20 years in if they don't fire me.
Go.
But I've been preaching and doing music and a little bit of this and a little bit of that for the last 20 years here. It's just a wonderful community, wonderful group of people. We love Columbus. Our family does. I've got 2 sons still live here, a couple grandkids that live here. So my whole immediate family's here in Columbus. I jokingly say that if the church ever gets tired of me, we have to find something else to do in Columbus because we just love the community that much. And we just are enjoying ourselves. We've got a school here at our church as well that has over 400 students in the K through 12 here at our school, and I don't do a lot with the school. They must have known what I was like in high school, so they don't let me do much with the school. But it's a wonderful ministry here on this corner to be able to minister to people on throughout the week in the church, and then also Monday through Friday in the school as well.
Now, you, in addition to the church, you are one of those really, really cool pastors. You actually have the music as well, and I've heard some of your music. You are actually, and I mean it, you're extremely talented. What got you into? I mean, I know that when I saw you, I don't know when I was down in Columbus, I didn't know that you were doing music as much, but I do know now it's ramping up quite a bit. What made you make that? And I don't know, I don't want to say it's a transition, but just what made that become a focus, not the focus, but the a focus?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. My whole ministry career, I guess, from the time I left Brazil to study in Cincinnati, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just knew the Lord wanted me to go to Bible college. And I honestly had the thought of being the cool youth pastor that could do music kind of stuff, right? And I never dreamed I would end up preaching. And then I got over to Cincinnati, met some pretty cool people and sharpened my musical skills a little bit. And then it just seems like the Lord has just kept opening doors in the last 30 plus years of my preaching ministry to continue to do music. I grew up in a musical family. My mom was a part of a group in the early 70s that cut a few records and just kind of have continued to do that. And I've had some pretty cool opportunities come around with recording. Got to do some recording in Nashville, a solo project in Nashville, which was a lot of fun. Very, how do I want to say it? Very eye-opening to go down there and see the kind of talent that's in Nashville, and you just really feel out of place. I mean, it would be like, if I can put it in what might make you feel more relatable, I guess, is to, you could go, what's your favorite hockey team?
My favorite hockey team is the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, Sabres. Yeah. That's what I thought. So, if the Sabres were to call you tomorrow and say, hey, we need you to play. And you say, yeah, I'm there. No problem. And you step right in. You might feel a little out of place. I'm going to guess. I don't know. I've not seen you play, but I'm going to, you're not like still NHL level. I don't know. Maybe you are.
No, not at all. But all.
That's kind of how I felt when I went to Nashville. It's like these dudes are like, my piano player played for Carrie Underwood on the CMA Awards.
Wow.
And I'm like, seriously, dude? How did this happen? And that was just a God thing.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just God just continues to bless and open doors and put the right people in my life that allows me to continue to make pretty cool music.
You said you went from high school. Now, I know that there's a massive gap. I only went to high school in Brazil for 1 year, but there's a little bit of a gap. I know that you were always a great, a really kind. You were as a teenager, you were an outstanding individual. Well liked. Now, there are a lot of people that are in high school that go to college that fumble around. I know I was one of them. My life really didn't begin. I went from 18 to 23 and I didn't know what to do. Okay. Professionally, personally, anyway. 18 to 23, a matter of fact, even in my book, I describe those as the dark ages because those were very, very dark times. And then I didn't have my renaissance until probably 23, 24 years old. But you just said something, and I really want the audience, because there's a lot of young people that listen to this podcast as well. You went to Bible college. You knew you had to go to Bible college. So somewhere in your very young life, you knew you had a calling. You knew you had a purpose. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just full disclosure, I was a late bloomer. I was out for 5 years before I went to Bible college.
Okay, so you had a dark ages as well,
but I wouldn't say. Well, we'll call it dark ages. I didn't really find my ultimate purpose. Right. I was a Christian. I wasn't a bad person, but I was playing the game. Right. And it's just kind of like, all right, yeah, I'll go to church and everybody thinks I'm a pretty good dude and I can sing a little bit and I'm a nice guy. But I remember when I was 22, our pastor, George Hewitt, at Eastside Christian Church in Brazil, Indiana. It's that church right behind Hardee's. Right there by the old high school. And the George said, have you surrendered all? We're going to sing the closing song, I Surrender All. And he said, have you really surrendered everything to the Lord? And I hadn't. And his question, those words hit me like a ton of bricks that day because I was pursuing anything but pleasing the Lord. I was pursuing my own interests. I thought I was a decent athlete, so I'd play ball as much as possible. I was singing with a group that had a bus, and we were traveling around and doing some stuff that we thought we were pretty cool there. I was working at the local men's clothing store, Lifeites men's clothing store. You may have, if you rented your tuxedo for the prom there, maybe, I don't know, but worked there for a while. Anyway, that was kind of my gig, just playing the game. Thought, you know what, I'll just, get married someday and have some kind of career. And then it was when the Lord said, no, I got another plan for you. And I heard it very clearly that day, that I got something more for you. And then the Lord put another person in my life that said, listen, I think you'd be a great preacher. And I'm like, nah, that's not me. He goes, no, I think you'd be great. I'm like, no, that can't happen. And so he said, I tell you what, I will take you to any Bible college you want to visit overnight. I'll pay for the trip, pay for gas, pay for food. I'll take you there. You can meet some people. We'll go to as many as you want. And the only one I knew at the time was Cincinnati Bible College, and that was because of another classmate of ours, Perry Dressler. Do you remember Perry?
Is he a wrestler, I think?
Football player. Yeah, he may have wrestled too. Yeah, I think he probably wrestled. Okay. But anyway, Perry went to Cincinnati, and that was really the only school I knew. So I went and checked it out and fell in love with the place. I drove off campus that day, and it's like that I'm going to go here. And then, the rest is history, I guess. The Lord said, no, I want you to be a preacher. You're not going to do music, not as a music major. You're not going to be a worship leader. You're not going to be a youth minister. I'm calling you to preach. And I heard it very clear. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. So I was a late bloomer. And yeah, we'd call it dark ages because I was kind of fumbling my way through, finding my own way. But it wasn't really a downtime. It was still good. The Lord was still blessing. It was great. But I was just kind of trying to figure out what the Lord wanted me to do. Finally figured it out.
Wow. And so obviously it was definitely, the calling that you received, it was definitely your calling.
Absolutely. No question.
And so the reason why I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one is the longevity. You've been you're in a city that, and for those of you who do not know, Columbus, Indiana it's only probably about maybe 50 to 60,000 people. And I say only, but I will say as far as the architecture, and the identity of that city, it is top notch. It is a top notch city. And it's probably, I would say, and I'm going to say this because I no longer live in Indiana, so I can say this and no one's going to get mad. It is probably the best city in all of the state of Indiana. And I'm saying that, and I'm not, there are a couple cities in Indiana, that are great, are good, but Columbus, Indiana, as far as the culture, as far as everything, one thing I do love about Columbus, Indiana is it does have a hockey rink. And I did play there, and so it's good. So any city has a hockey rink is all right with me. And so that's probably why it gets a couple extra points on the scale. But you've been there. You've been a pillar of that community. And you have done things that really, have improved the community. Like I said, when I was at Ivy Tech, you were there. You were definitely now you have a school, so you have future generations of Columbus that are going to benefit from someone driving you from Brazil, Indiana to Cincinnati and saying you're going to go to school. That's where it started. That's exactly where it started. But now it says you're not going to, and this is funny, you're not going to be a musician, you are going to be a preacher. It's funny how, all right, so God, it's when they talk about God, I think of him as a parental figure. Okay, mm-hmm. I absolutely do. And it's funny how, like, as a parent, I'll tell my kids, hey, you are going to do, before you do whatever. As a matter of fact, my grandson now, who I'm raising, I'm really like, hey, this, you have to clean your room, you have to do this, you have to do that and the other. So just today, as a matter of fact, he comes in with his report card, and his report card is impeccable. Okay. Now, I'm the kind of father, just like what God said to you, hey, you're going to preach because that's what I need you to do. Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gives you a gift. Just like, and I'm using the example of my grandson, you're going to get good grades. He gets good grades. And then I get up and, I had a break at work in between work. And I said, hey, let's go to the toy store.
Nice.
And in your situation, I'm listening to your situation right now, you're going to preach, that's what, God wanted you to do. And then you get into, even the interview we have right now, I know no one can see this right now. We will be going video very soon, but even you have a slew of guitars behind you. So he allows you now to preach, obviously, but now he allows you to do what you kind of want, your gift, so to speak, and that's music. So I want you to tell everybody about your music and how you're doing that now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just an amazing thing. I think as you were talking there, if I could just hit on what you're talking for a second, it just, to me, the whole process of where the Lord has me right now just is a reminder of Matthew 6:33 that says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. What are all these things that he's talking about? I think a lot of it is just those blessings, right? And so when I kind of forgot about music and went after what I thought the Lord was wanting me to do, and now he's throwing all of these things in. Mm-hmm. And had I been a musical, for lack of better terms, success early on, it would have been all about me. It would have been about, look what I did, look how successful I am, look at me that I can do this music. I had to learn the lesson that it's about him. Everything that I do needs to point to him. And when I finally started figuring that out, that's when all of these other blessings started coming in, and getting these opportunities for someone to just come to me with a record label and say, listen, I want to put you in Nashville. And he drops about $15,000 on a project for me. Mm-hmm. The guitars you see on my wall, I know your listeners can't see them. Every guitar on that wall was given to me by somebody. Wow. I've probably got $20,000 in guitars on that wall. None of them are junkers, right? It's just people that say, I believe in your ministry. I want to gift this to you. It's those things, and I'm not saying follow Jesus and, you're going to get all these material things. But when you do seek his kingdom first, it's amazing how those things, not just the things that we need, but the things sometimes that we want too, mm-hmm. that can us to continue to bless others. So that's my music is very important to me. I love doing it. I love doing the 3 different kinds of music that I do. I have a solo, for lack of, I wouldn't call it a career, but I have a solo ministry where I'll go out just with a guitar, sometimes, use some soundtracks with my guitar and that sort of thing. And then I also play with 2 other people in my church, CLR. CLR is Caleb, Lauren, and Ron. We weren't smart enough to think of a really cool name, so we're just CLR. But I love doing that. The harmonies on that are just, to me, magical. It's just so much fun. And then I do another show with a full band. There's 7 of us with a full band. That's called Worship Through the Decades. And we start with old hymns, but we do kind of a 50s beat, I guess, rockabilly kind of style. And then we get into some of the 60s and 70s, like some of the Gaither stuff and some of the Rich Mullins mm-hmm. stuff, some of that early Christian rock music, and then into the 80s and with Michael W. Smith and Amy Grant, and then the 90s and with the Newsboys and Stephen Curtis Chapman. Just keep right on going up to modern worship music with Phil Wickham and Brandon Lake, and even throw in an original or 2 that I've written. So it's kind of fun. I get to preach. I get to do 3 different kinds of music, and I get to be a husband, get to be a grandpa. I just could not be more blessed.
No, and that's funny how now we are, after all these years, now we are the grandparents now. Isn't that nice stuff? I don't know. It's great. It's a blessing. It's a privilege for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, now we're the grandparents. We're the ones who used to say, "I'll never be like you." Now we are just like them.
We are there. Yeah, and it's fun,
we
man.
are there. We are the ones.
No greater title. No greater title. Pastor, I can take that early. I mean, I know it's my I don't care about the title, whatever other title, musician, blah, blah, blah. But when people call me Papa, that's the cool one right there. I'll take that one.
Yeah. I love that. I love looking at and the funny thing is about being a grandparent is and I don't mean to sound, I'm not saying this in a fatal way. I'm saying this because our time on this earth is but a vapor. We're not here that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really nice that that we are blessed with the ability. There are a lot of people that are not blessed with the ability to see their replacement and love their replacement and share their legacy.
Yeah.
And we're able to do that. I look at my grandsons. I have 3 grandsons. I'm going to have a 4th grandson here in January.
Nice.
And I'm looking at all of my grandkids, my grandsons. Really wouldn't mind having a granddaughter. I really wouldn't. I mean, I'm just saying. But I look at all my grandchildren, and I'm looking at them, and I have a great time with them. And sometimes when I look at them, I'm like, you know what? One day this kid right here is going to be that's my replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's like a military thing when you're training up young people, but it isn't. But it's a great feeling to know that you are blessed to see, time after you, and it's nice to see that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm sounding fatal, but I enjoy that. I really do.
I actually have a song called Time. I didn't write it. It's a Canadian country artist. I know you've probably got a lot of listeners that listen to Canadian country music. But I was on a YouTube YouTube rabbit hole one night, and I found this Canadian country artist that did this song called Time. And it's just, man, it's not a Christian song necessarily, but it is packed with biblical truth that we are here for just a little while. And, you're going to look up, and one day that person that you've just taken for granted, they're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. And, we think we have time, but we don't, we don't. We've only been given so much, and I think we're going to be held accountable for that. I think God's going to say, listen, I gave you this, do this. What'd you do with it? My dad used to say also that life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. And that is so true, man. That is so true. The older I get, man, time just flies by, and just enjoy it. Soak it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Pastor Ron Bridgewater, going through the decades now, but we are, I am very happy to have you on here. I do know your music is out there. We talked a little bit, and I may be able to, at the end of this broadcast, instead of having my theme song. Now, I do want to tell you about the theme song on this show. And it's funny. I like I said, I did not spend a lot of time in Brazil. However, the theme song of this podcast was actually written by 2 people from Brazil, Indiana.
No way.
It is actually this theme song, which is, and I'm going to tell you this, it's a great theme song. It is, and the theme song was written by a man by the name of Matt Brookshire.
Yeah, I know Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. And his friend Billy Brown. They wrote this song, and it's fantastic. And it's great that we do that. And now I went off and forgot what I was about ready to say because I'm getting old. I can't believe I just said that. But the theme song's written from a guy from people from Brazil, Indiana. And so it's what I wanted to do is I was going to ask you if you can close out, and you don't have to do it right now, but if you have any music that you want us to put on, I would love to share it with my audience to kind of close out the game today. But if you don't, I understand. But if you do, I might surprise my guests with the closing song will be by Ron Bridgewater. I do not know yet.
That would be an honor if you would substitute your theme song for one of mine. That'd be awesome. Since it's the holidays too, I've got a couple of original Christmas tunes. I don't know if that's of interest or not, but yeah.
Today, I will tell my audience today you when we do close this podcast out, you will be blessed not by a cool song. You'll be even though his song is going to be cool too, but you will be blessed by a holiday song, and it'll be a little different today. So we will definitely share that with the audience, and if it's going to be holiday, because like I said, this is the holiday season. Here in North America, we in the United States, we have Americans Thanksgiving. Canadian Thanksgiving was actually back in October. And then we're going into Christmas and New Year, Hanukkah, and all those other great holidays. We're kind of closing it out. You know, I'm going to be light for the next couple episodes. And we started out with a great friend of mine in Ron Bridgewater. We will be right back with our closing segment right after this. Hello. First, I want to say I am forever grateful for the support that my audience has given me for the 4Ps podcast. When the 4Ps podcast started out, it was only supposed to deal with the 4Ps, that is purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. But then after hearing the stories that I hear from my guests and also hearing the stories and the responses of the stories from my audience regarding how those stories helped, I was compelled to come out with the series Stories Of. Stories Of is going to be a series of books. Right now we have for 2024, we have the stories of children lost and the stories of veterans. In 2025, we will have a stories of loss once more, but we'll also have the stories of addiction. And in the future, we'll have other stories to come about. These books give the voice to those who probably couldn't give their voice out any other way. And we will give them their stories, and they share their stories with you, and they help the reader find ways that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Stories of franchise. Like I said, the first two are out for 2024. It's Stories of Children Lost and the Stories of Veterans. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. You can find it anywhere you buy books. It's the Stories of franchise. Please read it. It will help you. It will help your loved ones. It will help your family. Stories Of. Get them at a bookshop near you. You know, Ron Bridgewater did talk about what you were supposed to do. You know, sometimes, I want you to think about this. Sometimes you're wondering, why am I not getting the results I want? And I'm not getting them at the time I want. And I will tell you the reason why that is happening. You ready? You're not doing it because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You got to get what you have to do first before you do it. Now, we are going to talk in the biblical sense. All right. Now, we always say that God is our heavenly Father. If you're a Christian, that's what you believe. You believe that God is our heavenly Father. And I want you to think about yourself in this case. Okay. Think about yourself as a parent, and think about things that you do as a parent with your children. And if they do what they're supposed to do, you let them do what they want to do. Sometimes, you know, I mean, within reason. Now, think about this. Think about if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Do you give them what they want to do? No, that's bad parenting. So if you think about it on the scale of, you know, in Ron's case, you know, Pastor Ron, what did he do? He went out and he wanted to be a musician. He wanted to do this, that, and the other. But you know what? There was a different plan. There was a totally different plan. You've got to do this first. Then you can go out and do whatever you want to do. You can play as much music as you want, all right? But you have to do this first. And that's the thing. And that's about life in general. Sometimes the reason why we are not able to do what we want to do is because we haven't done what we had to do. And so going into 2025, which is literally just less than 2 weeks away, you know, we're going to go into 2025, and when you're sitting there talking about new me, new year, new you, and all that other garbage, whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I know I call that garbage, but you know what? We do that. All of us do that. We always say this is going to be a new year, and this is what we're going to do for our new year. All right. But when you go into the new year, instead of talking about what you want to do, write down what you have to do. This is what I have to do for the new year. This is what I have to do in order for me to do what I want to do. And write down all the things that you have to do for the new year. And once you get those things done, then write what you want to do. That way you're setting yourself up with a great goal, and you're setting yourself up to the point to where 2025 will be a year where you get to do what you want to do. Why? Because you made sure you took care of business first. And so that's what I want. That's the lesson I want you to learn from this particular podcast episode. When you're going into 2025, now I will say this is going to be the last time well, actually, you're going to hear me a little bit more. I have a couple of holiday re-releases of the podcast episode, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about it there. But this is the last fresh voice you're going to hear from Trunis Goggins. And Trunis Goggins says, make sure that in 2025, you do what you have to do first. That way you can do what you want to do. And if you go into the next year with that philosophy, you are going to do a lot of what you want to do, because you're not fighting about what you have to do. And that's the greatest thing. You go ahead and do what you have to do first. All right. And then you're going to do what you want to do, and you're going to be able to do a lot of it. Just want you to know, next year, 2020, this is the last. We are going to have some really good episodes coming up in the next week. We're going to have some really good episodes. We're going to bring back some oldies but goodies. That is for sure. Things that you probably don't remember. We're going to have the best of here in the next couple of days. But I will say, starting January 6th, the 4Ps podcast, we have always been an audio podcast. We are going to be going video, and we are going to have video podcasts. You will be able to see us on our brand new YouTube channel. You will be able to see all of that. It is going to look great. I am really looking forward to it. Another thing I wanted to do before we get off before this podcast episode is over is I want to thank you. I want to thank each and every single one of you for your support. Do you know, in 2024, we have released 3 books and 1 in which I contributed to. And it was because of your support that this happened. Don't forget the 4 Ps of You. You know, I absolutely love this book. We will have a follow-up to the 4 Ps of You coming out in February. And also the Stories of. And if you purchase a Stories of book, remember, some of the proceeds will be going to scholarships and programs to help people who are going through the problems that we are presenting in those books. We'll be able to help them go through it so they can go through it. And I don't want to say easier, but maybe smoother than what the people who wrote in the book have gone through. And don't forget, we're also going to be everywhere. You heard already in the advertisements that we're going to be in Johnson City, we're going to be in Plainfield, we're going to be in Los Angeles, we're going to be in Australia, we're going to be in a lot of parts unknown. But like I said, don't forget, you can see us out on the road. And when I say us, don't forget, we have a lot of authors that are now writing in the Stories of, and those authors will be out as well. You don't have to just hear my voice and see my face, but that will be great. So there's a lot of things coming up in 2025. What I want to do is I want to get a little bit closer to you as an audience, and I want to be able to go out and see you. Don't forget to come visit us. Don't forget our books, great reading. I know that both Stories of are in the top 100, so please make sure you buy those books, share those books with others. Both those books go for a lot of good causes. We will be talking to you soon, and I will be saying Merry Christmas to you in my best of, but this is the first time you're going to hear it, in an original Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. Make sure, any holiday that you're celebrating, I want it to be a great holiday season, and we will be back with a brand new look and a brand new style. But we're always going to have one thing. We're going to have purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. Goodbye. Talk to you soon.
Respected in the town, a teenage girl, rumors all around. A baby's on the way, will he go insane? Take her as a wife. A child of yours is the way to a new life. What God will do through him will save you from your sin. The King came from heaven to the earth. The angels sang praises at his birth. In a hopeless situation, through a virgin girl, God gave joy to the world. A broken man neglected by the town. A wayward girl, no one to help her when she's down. At the end of their rope, looking for a little hope. The King came from heaven to the earth. The angels sang praises at his birth. In a hopeless situation, through a virgin girl, God gave joy to the world. The King came from heaven to the earth. The angels sang praises at his birth. In a hopeless situation, through a virgin girl, God gave joy to the world. Joy to the world, the Lord is come.
Beautiful song highlighting the true meaning of Christmas. You know, I hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas holiday. Spend it with your loved ones. And remember, it's not about the gifts. It's not about the tangible gifts that you get in your hand. Who cares what you get? It's about the family that's there. You know, that's the greatest gift you were given. And a lot of us were given that at birth. And we should always, always cherish the gift that we have, and that is family. We will be talking to you again next week. Again, like I said, we will have a best of coming up next week and the week after. And then after that, starting January 6th, it's going to be a whole new ball game. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless each and every one of you. Bye-bye.